What is the single biggest dick move in all of history? Opium wars were pretty dickish. You don't wanna buy hard drugs from us and turn your population into useless addicts? Fine. We'll invade you and bombard your cities until you start buying. I didn't study opium wars that good. But wasn't it started by China not wanting to trade at all and resulting in Brits being Brits? Edit. Just to avoid pointless debates, I'm not supporting Britain on this issue. They did a terrible thing and China was right to ban opium. As a Brit, the phrase Brits being Brits to mean generally just ducking absolutely everything in the world is perhaps my favorite I've ever seen. Hitler killing Hitler and thus not giving everyone else the satisfaction of doing so. At first I wondered how come there were two Hitlers. And then, oh, right. Yes. There were multiple Hitlers. One joined the Allies and made papers as Hitler vs Hitler. Also another group made a pact where none could bear offspring and thus end the Hitler lineage. Probably when they relocated Rasputin's schlang from his body to that jar. r/technical literature. That time a fish evolved legs and crawled out of the ocean. Things just went downhill from there. And so the problem remained. Lots of the people were mean. And most of them were miserable. Even the ones with digital watches. Many were increasingly of the opinion that they'd all made a big mistake in coming down from the trees in the first place. And some suggested that even the trees had been a bad move. And that no one should ever have left the oceans. Douglas Adams. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, yeah. The ape who decided being a complex being was a good idea. A company was then chosen by the battalion's commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel John Dutton Frost, to lead the 2nd Parachute Battalion in the Battle of Arnhem, part of Operation Market Garden, because of Digby's reputation of being an aggressive commander. In preparation, Digby, concerned about the unreliability of radios, educated his men on how to use bugle calls that had been used during the Napoleonic Wars for communication in case the radios failed. He also took an umbrella with his kit as a means of identification because he had trouble remembering passwords and felt that anyone who saw him with it would think that only a bloody fool of an Englishman would carry an umbrella into battle. Greater than sign. A company were dropped away from the target of Arnhem Bridge and had to go through Arnhem where the streets were blocked by German forces. Digby led his men through the back gardens of nearby houses instead of attempting to advance through the streets and thus avoided the Germans. Digby and a company managed to travel 8 miles in 7 hours while also taking prisoner 150 German soldiers including members of the SS. During the battle, Digby wore his red beret instead of a helmet and waved his umbrella while walking about the defenses despite heavy mortar fire. When the Germans started using tanks to cross the bridge, Digby led a bayonet charge against them wearing a bowler hat. He later disabled a German armored car with his umbrella, incapacitating the driver by shoving the umbrella through the car's observational slit and poking the driver in the eye. Greater than sign. Digby then noticed the chaplain pinned down by enemy fire while trying to cross the street to get to injured soldiers. Digby got to him and said, "Don't worry about the bullets. I've got an umbrella." He then escorted the chaplain across the street under his umbrella. When he returned to the front line, one of his fellow officers said about his umbrella that thing won't do you any good. To which Digby replied, "Oh my goodness, Pat. But what if it rains?" Digby was later injured by shrapnel, which also cut open the rear of his trousers, but continued to fight until a company had run out of ammunition. Despite the radios being unreliable as Digby had predicted and the bugle calls being used most in the battle, the message "out of ammo, God save the king" was radioed out before Digby was captured. TL. Doctor, a bloody fool of an Englishman carries an umbrella into battle because only he would. Takes 150 German soldiers, some of whom belonged to the SS, hostage, plays chicken with the artillery using aforementioned umbrella, single-handedly takes out the cavalry with only umbrella, rescues Pat with umbrella. Because oh my goodness, what if it rains? Takes shrapnel in the ass, but isn't even phased, runs out of ammo. God save the king. That guy had the biggest dick in history bar none. Source link. Wikipedia. org/wiki/digby_tatumwater. How the duck have I never heard of this guy before? Thanks for a great read. I read the source. Holy shit. The balls on that guy. I take it Digby is a household name in the UK. Well, Sir Digby Chicken Caesar was well known a few years ago. Trojan horse. That was a big dick move. But I think Op is asking about big dick moves. Those Methodicas evolving to suck mammal blood, and now we got to worry about mosquitoes, leeches, ticks, etc. When God told Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, and right when Isaac was begging for his life and his dad was about to drive a knife into his chest, God said psych! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! I got you good, bro. Kill that ram over there instead. Apostrophe. This always bothered me when I was learning about religion. I have a hard time totally respecting someone who asks a man to kill his own son. Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution. Basically Mao's return to power after the failure of the Great Leap Forward and an opportunity to purge political rivals. The Cultural Revolution is estimated to have killed another 20 million, on top of the 30 million from the famine that followed the Great Leap Forward. And yet I seen a tweets on Twitter praising him alongside Marx. I get why you like Marx, cause you a commie/fan of socialism. But Mao straight up killed that many people and delayed a few years worth of advancements. I've never seen anyone praise Mao for what he did. Philip of Macedonia threatened the Spartans, if I invade Laconia, you will be destroyed and never rise again. The Spartans replied with if. The Spanish Inquisition. It was so much so that nobody expected it. Being serious though, it really was a massive one. When Nani tried to steal Cristiano Ronaldo's goal link, B/E1 SPIEV SUF 0, and got it ruled out for offside. It's hilarious even if you don't like football, soccer. Make sure you watch the second angle, 035, so you can see just how bad this was. The white American conquest over the native populations is probably a strong contender. A large majority of Native American tribes were quite welcoming of newcomers in need. There's an entire holiday about being thankful for the kindness and the generosity of the Native Americans. In return, they were gifted with smallpox and other lethal diseases, had every one of their treaties ignored, and were wiped out whenever they tried to complain about it. Had their primary prey species deliberately hunted to extinction, had their culture reduced to primitive shamanism and a few totemic symbols, and those that weren't killed outright were forcibly marched across the continent to poorer London and even known as the Ducking Trail of Tears. Prince Albert actually moving his supposedly massive dick inside Queen Victoria. He basically fathered a bloodline that caused every bit of upset in the early 20th century. If it wasn't for his massive dick moving, there would have been no First World War. I used to pee in the bathroom sink. Mother Teresa made children suffer because she thought suffering was more Christ-like than healing. Treaty of Versailles. The helicopter. Getting rid of Fruit Loop cereal straws, I will never forgive them for that shit, haha. Colonization. Effects will be felt now and forever. Winston Churchill deliberately diverted food to countries like England and Greece while Bengalis, Indians, starved to death. He knew of the genocide he was committing and was, when reminded, mocked and blamed the people for breeding like rabbits. This isn't true and also doesn't take account of the situation at the time. It was 1943. The British didn't exactly have a ton of spare merchant ships available, as the Germans had been sinking them for the last 3 years. Britain itself was enduring permanent food shortages, and the main breadbasket of Bengal, Burma, had been occupied by the Japanese, who stopped westward food exports. British colonial policies certainly contributed, but the narrative that Churchill single-handedly decided to commit genocide is a completely false one. Much more culpability lies with the provincial government that tried to deny the famine's existence until it had already got out of hand. I mean, Columbus, right? The Great Leap Forward. Genocide of the native people that helped you survive, and continued violation of treaties to this day. When Thag stole credit from Gronk for the invention of the wheel, the Thag family still gets royalties today. Hard to pick just one. Probably also depends on how you are going to define it, but things like the Hungarian uprising, where there was encouragement to rise up against the harsh communist rule, only for the Hungarian freedom fighters to then receive no backup or support at all from the West. Similarly, the Americans' encouragement and enabling of similar action in Cuba. But there are many things you could point. People like George Soros shorting the pound to make himself a cool billion, to the detriment of millions of ordinary people. Many smaller examples though. Lord Ashcroft, the Tory donor, didn't get a cushy job he had wanted when David Cameron became PM, so Ashcroft spread the Piggate story, which is completely baseless. But now David Cameron will always be the guy that may have put his dick in a dead pig's mouth. When you throw shit, even when that shit is bullshit, some will stick. No fan of Cameron, but Ashcroft equally can go duck himself. The tax dodging twat. Attacking the Russian forces at Osijek to the point where they had to use zombies. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.